My name is Cole Archer, and at 38, I thought I'd build a life that made sense. I'm a software consultant, the kind of guy who works from home in sweatpants, pulling in enough money to keep everyone happy. My wife Lillian, her mother Vivian, even her lazy cousin Ezra. They all depend on me, and I never minded much. 8 years ago, I married into this loud, chaotic Southern family, figuring their quirks were part of the package. They're always talking over each other, laughing too loud, planning things I'd never dream up. I used to call it eccentric, even charming. But lately I've realized it's not just eccentricity. They don't lean on me. They expect me to carry them. And I'm not sure how I feel about that anymore. Take the Bermuda trip. Lillian came to me months ago, eyes bright, saying, "Let's take the family somewhere amazing like Bermuda." I could have said no. I could have mentioned her car payment or Vivian's leaky roof. But I didn't. I said yes because I always say yes. I booked flights, a fancy villa with ocean views, even a boat tour for the whole crew. It wasn't just Lillian and me, either. She added her mom, Ezra, and a few others. I didn't blink at the cost. I just swiped my card, figuring it'd be worth it to see her smile. She's got this way of making me feel like the hero when she gets what she wants, and I've always liked that feeling. But something started gnawing at me. Maybe it was Lillian adding people without asking, or Vivian calling me the bank one too many times with that smirk. I'd laugh it off, but it stuck. Sitting in my home office, staring at code, I wondered why I was the only one putting anything into this. Lillian would kiss my cheek, say, "You're the best, Cole," and I'd let it go. She's beautiful. Dark hair, green eyes, a smile that erases arguments. I met her at a barbecue and she hooked me in 10 minutes. I didn't care her family came with her. Back then, I thought they liked me. Vivian called me son. Ezra clapped me on the back. I felt like I belonged. Now, with the trip looming, I'm not so sure. It's like I'm not part of the plan, just the guy who makes it happen. I'd hear Lillian and Vivian giggling on the phone, and when I asked what was funny, they'd wave me off. "Oh, it's nothing, Cole." But her eyes wouldn't meet mine. Then Ezra dropped by last week, sprawled on my couch, saying, "Man, this Bermuda thing is going to be epic. Thanks for footing the bill." He grinned like it was a joke, but it didn't feel funny. I nodded, kept my mouth shut, and went back to my laptop. I told myself I was overthinking. Families are messy, right? They bicker, push, take, but they're still family. I've never had a big one of my own. Just my dad, who passed when I was 20, and my mom, who lives across the country now. Lillian's clan filled that gap, and I didn't mind the noise. At least I didn't used to. As the trip got closer, though, it felt heavier. I'd catch Vivian whispering to Lillian in the kitchen, their voices dropping when I walked in. One night, I overheard Ezra on the phone saying, "Yeah, Cole's got it covered. He always does." Those words stuck in my chest like a splinter. I sat there after he left, staring at the itinerary, flight times, villa check-ins, boat tour schedules, wondering why I wasn't excited. I should have been. My job's good, steady, pays for nice things without breaking a sweat. I'm not flashy, though. I drive a used truck, wear the same sneakers until they fall apart. The money's for them, for Lillian, Vivian, Ezra, for the life I thought we were building together. But sitting alone in my office, the house quiet, I couldn't shake the feeling something was off. Not just wrong, like I'd missed a step and was about to trip. 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave, Vivian called me for dinner. Her creaky house smelled like fried chicken and mothballs. The usual chaos greeted me. Loud stories, too much wine, Vivian bossing everyone around. Lillian sat next to her, picking at cornbread, her eyes flicking to mine for half a second before dropping again. Vivian raised her glass, then set it down hard. "Cole, we've made a small change to the trip." The room went quiet. I put my roll down slowly. "What kind of change?" Lillian jumped in, words spilling out. "I invited Jonah. Just for a few days." Jonah, her ex-husband, the guy who crashed our wedding rehearsal 8 years ago, drunk, yelling I'd stolen his girl. He shoved me into a table, took 2 ushers to drag him out. I haven't seen him since, but his name still tightens my jaw. Vivian leaned forward, smirking. And Mark will join, too. Your wife's high school sweetheart. Carrie and Beth giggled like this was a sitcom. Mark, the guy Lillian dated for 3 years before college, always brought up with a little smile, testing me. I felt my pulse kick up. You invited 2 guys my wife used to sleep with to a vacation I planned and paid for, and now you're kicking me off it? Vivian shrugged. We thought it'd be fun. Fun? That word hit like a slap. Lillian finally looked up, eyes wide. You're overreacting. I glanced around the table. Vivian smirking, Ruth avoiding my gaze, Carrie and Beth whispering. I felt like I'd stumbled into a game I didn't sign up for. I could have yelled, flipped the table, stormed out. But I've always been the calm one, the guy who fixes things, not breaks them. So I sat there, letting it burn, piecing it together. This wasn't a last-minute idea. They'd planned this, talked about it behind my back, laughed over wine while figuring out how to sell it to me. And Lillian, my wife, the woman I'd built my life around, wasn't on it. I stood slowly, chair scraping. Enjoy your dinner, I said flatly. Vivian snapped. Cole, sit down. I ignored her. Lillian stared, mouth half open, like she was surprised I wouldn't roll over. I walked out, screen door slamming. They thought I'd come back, tail between my legs, begging to keep my spot. They were wrong. I drove home, hands gripping the wheel. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I knew what to do. I opened my laptop, canceled every flight reservation, the villa, the boat tour, watching confirmations pop up like little victories. I emailed the group, trips off. No explanation. Let them figure it out. Then I booked a solo flight to Lake Como, Italy. One way. No villa, no boat, just me. My phone buzzed with calls and texts, but I ignored them. I called Julian, my lawyer. Start separation proceedings against Lillian. I'm leaving the country in 3 days. He paused. You sure? I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yeah. I packed slowly, shirts, jeans, boots. No rush. I didn't need much where I was going. The storm was coming. Theirs, not mine. Lake Como was quieter than I'd ever felt. The water stretched blue and endless, old stone towns clinging to the hills. I rented a tiny hotel room overlooking the lake, drank bitter espresso on a wobbly balcony chair, and let the silence sink in. A week later, I turned my phone on. Notifications exploded. Lillian's frantic calls, Vivian's rants, texts begging me to fix this. I didn't answer. I didn't owe them an explanation. They showed up at the airport anyway. Vivian in a floral dress, barking at Ezra to carry bags. Lillian fussing with her hair. Jonah and Mark strutting like they own the place. Matching family t-shirts. Archer Bermuda bash. They rolled to the check-in counter, only to find no tickets, no reservations. The gate agent said, I'm sorry, ma'am. There's no record of your booking. Vivian turned pale. Lillian cried, mascara streaking. Jonah cursed, kicked his suitcase. Mark shrugged and walked off. Ruth tried calming them, but Ezra's girlfriend, Belle, later told me it was a circus. People stared, kids pointed. The whole family unraveled in the terminal. I sipped espresso on my balcony, imagining it. The water glittered, boats bobbing like they didn't have a care. I didn't laugh, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Social media updates trickled in. Lillian posted, my husband abandoned us. We made one harmless change to a trip and he lost it. Vivian commented, he's unstable. Poor Lillian. I scrolled, stunned by their audacity. Jonah and Mark weren't harmless changes. They'd plotted this for months. Belle sent screenshots, group chats, texts, even a hotel receipt where Lillian met Jonah 3 months ago. Miss you, she'd written. Dinner soon? His reply, you know I'm there. Cole won't mind. Another chat between Lillian and Vivian. Jonah's in. Mark too. Cole pay for it either way. I leaned back, staring at the lake. They'd schemed this for months. Secret dinners, burner phones, text to Mark. Pick whatever excursions you want. Cole's got it covered. They'd counted on me being the same old Cole, the quiet, steady guy who grumbles, but never pushes back. They miscalculated. Julian emailed. Divorce papers are ready. Emotional abuse, slander, Financial misconduct. Vivian's in it too, using your business account for personal purchases. We're ready to move. I serve them the papers. Lillian's posts turned quiet. Comments called her out. Why'd you invite her exes on his trip? Vivian left voicemails. You're destroying everything. I replied to none of it. Months later, the divorce finalized. No drama, no shouting, just a stack of papers. I moved to Milan, rented a one-bedroom with a balcony overlooking quiet streets. I freelanced for European clients, met Isadora, a local artist with a laugh that made me forget my own name. We walked through markets, talked about her paintings, my coding. No pressure. One morning, a letter slid under my door. Lillian's handwriting. Cole, I know you don't owe me anything, but I need to say this. You were right. I was cruel. I'm sorry. I read it twice, folded it, and tucked it into a drawer. Not thrown away, but not something I'd keep staring at either. I met Isadora for lunch, ate sandwiches on a bench, talked about hikes and her next painting. Back home, they'd fallen apart, Lillian with Vivian, Jonah in jail, Vivian ranting to an empty audience. But I didn't need to watch. I'd taken that one-way ticket to Como, turned it into a life in Milan. It was the best decision I'd ever made. I got home, kicked off my boots, stood on my balcony. The city stretched below, sunset painting the sky gold. I breathed it in, peace, pure and simple. My name is Cole Archer. I bought the tickets. I canceled them. I walked away and now I'm free. Not loud about it. Not showy. Just living. The days in Milan settled into a rhythm that felt like breathing. Effortless, steady mine. I kept to my apartment, my work, my walks through the city's tangled streets, where the past didn't echo in the cobblestones. Isadora and I grew closer, though we never labeled it. We'd meet for coffee, wander galleries, or sit on her balcony painting while she corrected my brushstrokes with a smirk. You're too careful, she'd say, flicking water at my canvas. Art isn't about control. I'd laugh, but the word stuck. Control had been my armor for years, but here, with her, I was learning to let go. One evening, she brought a bottle of red wine to my place, and we ate pasta on the floor, backs against the bed, legs stretched out like we'd known each other forever. She asked about my life before Italy, not pushy, just curious. I hesitated, then told her fragments. The Bermuda trip, the dinner where they'd gutted my trust, the airport chaos. She listened, swirling her wine. They thought you were a rock, she said finally. But rocks break, too. Just slower. I nodded, surprised by how much that simple truth unraveled in my chest. By winter, I'd stopped checking my phone for updates. The silence from home was louder than their noise ever was. Belle had sent one last message months ago, Vivian's suing Lillian for draining her bank account. Jonah's still in jail. They're all falling apart. I'd replied with a thank you and a promise to visit her and Ezra someday, though I knew I wouldn't. Their story was over. Mine had begun the moment I canceled those tickets. Spring came, and with it, a job offer from a Milanese startup. A real one, with an office and colleagues who called me Senior Cole like it meant something. I took it, not for the money, but for the rhythm of routine, meetings, deadlines, lunches shared with strangers who became friends. I bought a second-hand bike, rode it through the city's awakening streets, the wind sharp with pollen and exhaust. Isadora and I painted together less often after that, though she'd still drag me to openings or late-night markets where she sold her work. One night, under strings of fairy lights, she handed me a small canvas. It was Lake Como rendered in wild blues and greens, the water swirling like it held secrets. For your office, she said. I thanked her, but she shook her head. For the man who learned to swim. The phrase stayed with me. I'd started swimming again that spring, early mornings in the lake near Como, the coldest shock that woke me up. I'd float on my back, staring at the sky, thinking of how far I'd come. Not just across an ocean, but out of the fog they'd kept me in. Lillian's letter remained in the drawer, unopened for weeks. Sometimes I'd glance at it, wondering what she'd say if I called. But the answer was always the same. Nothing that mattered. Forgiveness wasn't a door, I needed to leave a jar. On my birthday, I hiked alone to a hilltop village outside Milan. The air smelled of rosemary and dust, the view endless. I sat on a stone wall, ate panini from my pack, and watched clouds chase each other over the valley. My phone buzzed, a text from Julian. Final settlement approved. Funds secured. You're clear. I typed back a thank you, then deleted the message thread. No need to dwell on what they'd lost. Back home, I found a postcard in my mailbox. No stamp, just a sketch of a laughing woman with green eyes and dark hair, her face half obscured by a sun hat. On the back, in Isidora's looping script, "You forgot this at the market." I smiled, tucking it into the drawer beside Lillian's letter. Two ghosts side by side. That night, I cooked dinner for one, risotto with saffron, a bottle of Chianti, and stood on the balcony as the city lights blinked on. The phone buzzed again, a call from an unknown number. I let it ring, savoring the quiet. Whoever it was, they'd find me if they needed to. I thought of the old me, the one who'd bend until he snapped, who'd trade peace for a smile, or a "you're the best, Cole." He was gone now, dissolved in Lake Como's cold embrace. What remained was someone quieter, sharper, alive. I raised my glass to the skyline, to the man I'd become, and drank. My name is Cole Archer. I bought the tickets. I canceled them. I walked away, and now I'm free. Not loud about it. Not showy. Just living. And living, I've learned, is the quietest kind of revolution.